Sometimes you have a track where you have a really nice idea, but the track itself is feeling a little bit lifeless. That is the point where I'm at with one of my productions, so today I want to show you how to fix that using some effects. Because say that you take an idea like this. It is a nice idea, of course, but it is still feeling a little bit lifeless. There isn't really any flow through it, especially in the breakdown. So what I want to do today is I want to show you how you can use effects to add a little bit more flow and a little bit more impact to certain parts, which in turn is really going to affect how boring the track is going to be because it's going to dictate the flow a little bit more. And therefore, overall, the track will be moving a little bit more through different energy levels, which is really where you get a lot of interest in your productions from. So I have some default effects that I tend to use for this, and I just have them in here. And one of the effects that I have is this kind of riser, downlifter, transition kind of combination thing that all works together. And this tends to be the very first element that I add whenever I'm looking to spice up a certain area because it kind of always works. Like this might be a good spot for it if we mix it in like this. This, maybe together with an impact, will give a nice strong moment over here, which is going to be the indication that the break has started. So I'm going to see if I can find myself an impact too. Something like that, nice and dark and explosive sounding. And we're just going to line that up with where the break is going to be. And as you can hear, we have another moment that we're kind of building up to with all of the musical ideas, but not really with the energy flow yet, as there is no riser going into this part over here. And these are the moments where I tend to look for something special in terms of risers. So first of all, I can go into some of these effects over here. Something like this can be cool if we reverse it. Can of course always take an impact and reverse it and turn it into a riser and vice versa. So now I'm going to try to mix this in, but it has a little bit of an impact at the start, which I might not want. Yeah, that first kick is not really what I want, so I'm going to delete a bar of it. Or a beat of it, sorry. And now you can hear it is really rising up to this moment. What I personally like to do with these kind of risers is I usually like to add a few of them. And of course, one of the easy ones to add is going to be a reverse crash. So I'm just going to take my main crash here and create a reverse crash for this project by just reversing this around. What? You want me to continue the video? Not before you like and subscribe and comment and all of that stuff, and then I'll continue doing what I need to do, okay? Now already one of the things that I do have is this little reverse impact over here. So this is just a little rumble going up. And this is nice because it allows you to kind of get into the kick and bass already. You can really start to feel the rumble in your body right before the kick and bass starts to take over, and you get that really strong bass from the synthesized kick and bass. And what I would like to do is have a little bit more of like bass heavy effects down below here. So I'm going to do another reverse impact. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make one that is a little bit longer. And I'm just, as you can see, taking the rumble here and just filtering or having that come in over time. And now in the breakdown, it's going to sound somewhat like this. Now, one of the things that I could do is I could add a lot more effects to this. So for example, I could go in here and say add another impact over here, because this is where the vocal starts to play. And then we have this bell over here, which also plays every 4 bars. Now I could say, okay, what I could do is just have an impact on all of those. So already have impacts on the first and the second here. And then let's just go wild a little bit to show you what happens as an example. Say that we take this impact over here, and then we have a final impact over here as well. Say that this is what we end up doing. What is going to happen is that it's going to be almost overly stimulating because there's going to be too much happening in the effects. As you can hear, having an impact every 4 bars is a little bit excessive. And I've definitely heard some beginners put too many effects in certain places or have their effects way too loud. Because one of the things that you have to kind of keep in mind is that all of these effects are below the musical idea. In this whole thing, I never have an impact or I never have a riser or downlifter really take over the musical idea. Like the vocal is nice and clear in front of it. This stuff is nice and clear in front of it. Even the arp to an extent is nicely rising on top of the actual riser that's sitting in here. So we're really trying to keep it a little bit more simple. So that's why I'm going to delete those 3 impacts and I'm only going to have it at the start of the break here. But one of the things that we could add is a little bit of ambience because that always works well. So just a recording like this will work fine for that. I'm just going to drag that in and I'm going to extend it so that it fills our whole break up until the moment of the impact here. Add a little bit of EQing to this. I don't want it to be too sharp and I don't want any low frequencies in here. I do want a little bit of delay though. So that's already nice. Now let's have a look at a drop, how you would do it in a drop. One of the things that I often see people do is in their drops just have a downlifter and uplifter everywhere. And I really don't like that. Something like this, for example. Let's make sure that this is unwarped because we don't want that. What I hear a lot of people do is just put this in every drop. So they have a effect something like this, minus 20 dB. And then they just copy it over to every segment of their drop. Especially going out of the break, this just doesn't sound right to me. To me, risers and downlifters and all of that kind of stuff, it is really specific on the drop that I'm putting it in. So for example, over here, we are actually transitioning from this kind of groovy bassline back into a rolling bassline. And I feel like this area definitely can use a little bit of extra build-up. So this is one of the places where a riser would come in. And in fact, one of the things that I would probably do is use that same downlifter that we saw before. And again, reverse it to use it as a riser. I'm going to chop off the beginning because I remember it being a little bit stale towards the beginning. And of course, we want it to be continuously rising up until this part over here. And this is exactly where the fill is and where we're going to take over into a rolling bassline. And even here, I think we're going to get enough of an impact out of even a crash, say something like this, or maybe not even having an impact whatsoever. To be honest, without a crash, it sounds nicer to me, mainly because we have this one shot in here that is then coming through a little bit more. So again, even though we're rising in energy here and we really have this big impact, this still isn't the place where I put a downlifter. And in fact, if we go through this entire project and many other projects that you'll see of mine, I never really tend to use big downlifters like I showed before. To me, the downlifter or the impact generating element really is the crash. And even that you can see I use that very, very sparingly. Because again, this is all supportive stuff to the main idea. And I want the main idea to bring the impact in and of itself. And only be supported by all of those effects, as opposed to relying on the effects for the actual impact that that moment is going to generate. So to conclude, what I mean by livening up your tracks with effects is really that. It is really talking about taking an idea that already has all of the bass elements and already has all of the positions where you want changes to occur, and then actually trying to design the flow around that in order for the track to kind of move into and out of the impact moments. And these impact moments are, of course, the moments where you want to bring the attention to. And in our cases, inside of Psytrance, that would be the start of the breakdown. It may be the start of the vocal if you want to do like a little bit reverse vocal, or if you want to have an impact over here like I showed before. And then, of course, right here is the moment that we're rising up to in this breakdown. And that is where we want all of these risers to rise up to as well. And of course, in our other examples where we have a little build-up over here, you want the riser to kind of rise into the part where the transition really starts to happen. So this is still rising in energy, this is still kind of going up here. We do have the kick and bass already changing here, but the real moment of change is happening on this fill here, and that is where all of the risers go into. Now I say all of the risers go into that, but I have a really nice example of a part where risers kind of rise up to different moments, which you can see over here. So these are both a different riser. This one is a little bit of a faster one, and this one is a little bit of a longer, more stable one. So you can hear we have this one opening up and becoming really wide and really big before this one even starts to play. And then this one stops, leaving a little bit of space for this one to finalize here. And that is just nicely layered on top of this fill that we have. So as you can tell, there's a lot of different things that you can do with these risers and your downlifters and all of your effects. But again, always as background elements, as supportive elements. That is one way that I really want you to think about these things, because it also forces you to think in a way that your main musical idea still needs to have impact. It still needs to make sense from a musical perspective. So that's everything that I want to talk about for today. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by leaving a like and make sure that you're subscribed. Another way to support me is financially, which you can do so by going over on my Patreon page or by checking out my products on Gumroad, Payhip or André Krom's community store. So thanks if you do. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.